Power is never shared quietly. And right now, behind closed doors, one meeting is about to test who truly holds influence, the state or the throne. What happens when public service institutions step directly into the domain of traditional authority? The answer could redefine governance as we know it. Stay with this until the end and hit subscribe, because what unfolds here isn't just politics. It's a shift in power you don't want to miss. Something unusual is happening. A government body tasked with oversight and accountability is preparing to sit face-to-face with a king whose authority is rooted in centuries of tradition. On the surface, it looks like cooperation. Beneath it, questions are rising fast. Is this partnership or pressure? And more importantly, who stands to gain when two powerful systems begin to overlap in ways they never have before? Think about this for a moment. When modern institutions meet traditional leadership, the rules are no longer clear. Systems built on policy collide with systems built on heritage. That tension creates opportunity, but also risk. Now ask yourself this: if both sides claim to serve the people, why has this meeting sparked so much quiet concern? The first layer of this story reveals a strategic move that goes far beyond diplomacy. Public service bodies don't just meet traditional leaders without purpose. There is always an agenda, even when it's unspoken. This meeting signals intent. It suggests that influence is being negotiated in ways the public may not fully see. And when influence shifts, decisions follow. Watch closely. Now imagine a scenario where traditional leadership gains a stronger voice in public service decisions. It sounds empowering. But here's the twist: greater involvement can blur lines of accountability. Who answers to whom? That's where things get complicated. And once accountability becomes unclear, control quietly shifts. There's also a deeper historical backdrop at play. Traditional leadership has long held cultural authority, while public service operates on constitutional frameworks. These two forces have coexisted, but rarely intersected this directly. This meeting changes that balance. It opens a door that may not easily close, and once opened, expectations grow. But here's what most people miss: collaboration isn't always equal. One side often gains more leverage than the other. The question is, who is positioning themselves more strategically right now? The answer lies not in what is said publicly, but in what is negotiated privately. Silence speaks loudly. Another angle worth examining is timing. Why now? Why this meeting at this specific moment? Timing in politics is never random. It's calculated. It often signals urgency or opportunity. When institutions move quickly, it usually means something bigger is at stake. And that's exactly what makes this moment so critical. Let's go deeper. There's a growing expectation for governance systems to become more inclusive. Bringing traditional leaders into the conversation can strengthen community trust. That's the positive side. But inclusion without clear boundaries can create confusion. And confusion in governance often leads to conflict. Now here's a thought that shifts everything. What if this meeting isn't just about cooperation, but about control? Control over narratives. Control over decisions. Control over influence. When two powerful entities meet, they're not just exchanging ideas, they're testing limits. That's where real power is revealed. Right at this midpoint, pause and consider your position. If you were watching this unfold from inside the system, what would you be looking for? Transparency, accountability, or signs of hidden agendas? Drop your thoughts, stay engaged, and if you're seeing how deep this goes, make sure you're subscribed, because the second half exposes what most people overlook. Now the second phase begins, and this is where things get more intense. Because once the meeting happens, outcomes start to shape reality. Agreements made behind closed doors don't stay hidden forever. They show up in policy changes, shifts in authority, and subtle changes in decision-making patterns. That's where the real impact begins. Here's where a critical mistake often happens. People assume collaboration means alignment. It doesn't. Two parties can work together while still pursuing very different goals. That's the hidden tension. And when those goals eventually clash, the consequences become public. Consider the role of perception. Public trust depends heavily on how these interactions are interpreted. If people see unity, confidence grows. But if they sense manipulation, trust erodes quickly. And once trust is broken, rebuilding it becomes a long and difficult process. There's also an overlooked detail that changes everything. Influence doesn't always need authority to be powerful. Sometimes, simply being in the room is enough to shape outcomes. Presence itself becomes leverage. And that's exactly why this meeting matters more than it appears. Now picture the long-term effects. If this engagement sets a precedent, it could redefine how traditional leaders and public institutions interact moving forward. What starts as one meeting could become a model. And models, once established, are hard to reverse. But here's the unexpected twist. Greater collaboration could actually expose weaknesses on both sides. Public service systems may face pressure to adapt, while traditional leadership may be pushed into unfamiliar frameworks. That tension creates friction, and friction always reveals truth. Another critical layer is power balance. True partnerships require balance, but when one side holds structural authority and the other holds cultural influence, balance becomes fragile. And fragile systems can shift quickly under pressure. Now think ahead. What happens if this meeting leads to increased expectations from communities? People may demand more integration, more responsiveness, more results. And when expectations rise faster than systems can adapt, dissatisfaction grows. That's where instability begins. And here's something rarely discussed. Decisions made in moments like this often have unintended consequences. Even well-intended agreements can create ripple effects that no one anticipated. That's why every detail matters, every word, every agreement. As this story reaches its final stretch, one thing becomes clear: this isn't just a meeting, it's a signal. A signal that the boundaries between traditional authority and public service are being tested in real time. And once boundaries are tested, they rarely return to their original form. The real question now is not what will happen next, but who will adapt faster. Because in moments of change, speed determines influence, and influence determines outcomes. That's the game being played here. So as you reflect on everything you've just heard, understand this: power doesn't always shift with noise. Sometimes it moves quietly, in rooms most people never see. And by the time it becomes visible, the change has already happened. Stay sharp, stay informed, and if you want more deep breakdowns like this, subscribe and keep watching, because the next move in this story could change everything.